Did all of this political uncertainty around Brexit impact your fundraising plans? Did you guys talk about this?
We talk about it because it's current news and it's important, but fundamentally not that deeply. 2018 has been a good year for us. We've had four major multi-billion-dollar exits, and hopefully with Sonos going public in a month or so, we're going to see another one. That environment creates a lot of interest from investors that want to provide us with the capital to invest in companies. So we were able to raise the money without too much trouble, fundamentally. The one area, obviously, that we're always on the lookout for is immigration and movement of labor. That's important to us. But most of the companies we invest in are small and young, and cross-country labor and cross-country borders and tariffs and so forth aren't really their concern in the beginning. They're just trying to build a product that consumers love.
Well, and recruiting is one of the biggest issues now facing some of these companies, given all of this uncertainty. Is it impacting your strategy? Is it going to impact your strategy at all in terms of where you put this money now?
No, not that deeply. I think the competition for labor is absolutely critical. The most difficult part is typically the competition between the large and established companies, the Googles and Facebooks, versus our small companies that are trying to get that same labor. And so having more of that labor is helpful, but also it's really competitively positioning against a Google and Facebook and saying why working at a small company is more exciting.
And Caroline, based on the numbers, it certainly seems like other investors in Europe aren't holding back either. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, in terms of actually, London is not only a key tech hub in terms of Europe from where the companies are being born, but also where the money is. That hasn't changed since Brexit. You see Index Ventures, of course, as a key hub here in London, but an awful lot of the VCs are based here that are looking to get active in Europe, and they're raising more and more funds. Not only are we hearing this whopping amount of money coming from Index Ventures, but we're also heard from Highland in Europe. They're based in a key hub in London. They've been raising money. 8 Road Ventures been raising money, Octopus Ventures, Dawn Capital. We've got record amounts being raised, and we've also got record amounts being invested, because despite all the Brexit uncertainty, last year we saw a record amount of money come in to UK tech firms. So it's thus far, you can't run a counterexample. I can't tell you what it might have been if Brexit hadn't occurred. Would it have been more? But as it stands, London is still the #1 tech hub in the whole of Europe.
So, Mike, you got some competition there. In Europe, in particular, what are you bullish on?
Look, there's a number of sectors that we really like. One of the areas where the UK has helped us a lot is we are very early in fintech, partly because of the regulatory regime in the UK and a lot of entrepreneurialism around fintech. We started early in that sector. We had Adyen in our portfolio.
Adyen just went public,
exactly.
Right? Big exit for you.
We have a company even in the US called Robinhood. The UK really helped us in that context. So we continue to invest in that area. We do like commerce and retail. We've done companies like Farfetch or Etsy. Farfetch is also largely based in London, so we're seeing commerce thrive in that environment. Another area that we like a lot is sort of urban mobility and transport. Deliveroo, which is also based in the UK, it's sort of like for American audiences is like a DoorDash, but it's actually quite a bit bigger than DoorDash all across Europe. They were based in the UK. At the same time, we're investing in urban mobility like e-scooters, famous Bird. We're investors there. We did that one quite early. Aurora, self-driving cars. Those sectors we still invest in deeply. And then some of the kind of enabling technologies, enterprise software, AI, those are the key sectors we continue to look at.
Lots to unpack there. Let's start with e-commerce. Amazon's ambitions seem to have no bounds. Given that you're invested in some of these other e-commerce companies, how concerned are you that Amazon is just going to destroy the competition?
Well, Amazon...
They've got Handmade.
Absolutely. I think Amazon is a formidable force. And I think there is some talk in VC circles about how it's impossible to do anything in the vicinity of Amazon. But what we found is that there are segments which are quite large, particularly, for example, in high-end fashion. A couple of recent investments. We talked about Farfetch, which serves the very high end of the market.
And Amazon's also getting into fashion, though not the high end.
Although if you think about it, the brand of Amazon, at least today, doesn't necessarily carry over to the high end of the market. If you look, most of the brands that you would think about, Yves Saint Laurent, Gucci, etc., they don't necessarily want to be listed on Amazon as a product. So I think there's an opportunity there. We invest in a company called Goat that makes high-end sneakers or provides high-end sneakers. Again, not something that you would find on Amazon. So there are sectors which are quite large, and you can still build good companies around it. So I think it is important to recognize that they're a force, but it is not impossible to invest and to make good investments around them.
You mentioned Bird. We just spoke to the founder of Lime on the show. They've raised a huge new round. They've got a partnership now with Uber. And yet, in so many ways, this service seems like a commodity, like the brand doesn't matter. And I'll see people in the same group using different brands of scooters.
Yeah,
is this really that big of an opportunity?
Well, first of all, if you think about the market of people being transported in urban areas of distances less than 3 miles, the notion that that should be done by a car doesn't make sense. There should be a more effective way of moving people around. And that's why when you actually put scooters out there on the road, whatever brand, consumers absolutely love it. So the first thing to realize is that it's a very, very big market. Much like we've seen in ride hailing, you saw multiple players emerge as winners. There's Lyft and Uber, and if you go to other geographies, there's Didi and Grab and so forth. I think you're going to see the same thing in e-scooters. You're going to see more than one brand. There is going to be some level of consolidation, but it is not a total commodity in the sense that liquidity is important. You will only take one if it's very close by. You're not going to walk 3 blocks to take an e-scooter. So size matters, and that's why fundraising is so important in the sector.
Meantime, there are a lot of regulatory issues with this sector in particular. And in London, Uber just, nearly lost its license and won it back. Caroline, there's a new head of the digital sector there. How do we expect him to handle some of these issues?
Yeah, this is an interesting fallout from the whole Brexit furor that's broken up over the last couple of days because, well, the digital minister who we spoke to only a couple of weeks ago is Matt Hancock. He has now been elevated to head the healthcare system here in the United Kingdom, and we've got a new person called Jeremy Wright coming to the fore as the Minister for Digital overall, as well as media, sport. But this man, Jeremy Wright, isn't that tech savvy, dare I say it. He has only tweeted a few times. He hasn't tweeted really since 2015. He's not someone whose Facebook page seems to work at the moment when you click on from the parliamentary website. So many are kind of criticising what Jeremy Wright might actually know about the digital sector, if at all. He's a man who's a lawyer by trade, so clearly highly educated. I'm sure he's got his head around it very swiftly, but many are slightly wondering about what sort of a force of positivity he'll be for the sector, because this is an area of growth for the United Kingdom and one that the government has tried to fund. They've been putting more money in, more patient capital. There's a new fund that's been raised to put into new startups and funds to back them, and, as I said, a new startup visa. So they're trying to still make this a very hospitable place to grow UK businesses, but it doesn't seem as though they always get the most educated and digital people to become the ministers.
So, Mike, where won't Index be putting its money? What is overhyped? Crypto?
Look, on a relative basis to our peers in the industry, there are a few sectors that we haven't done. We've not done a lot in so-called frontier tech. We have not done as much in crypto as some of the peers that we have in the industry. Look, at the end of the day, what we tend to focus on are, can the company that we're funding make products and services that make a difference, that tangibly make a consumer's life better? And crypto is interesting, but it's hard to point to right now something that particularly North American or European customers that have a broad range of banking and financial services, that it fundamentally makes it better for them. Now, in other geographies, it makes sense. Like if you're in Argentina, owning Bitcoin might be a very interesting way to keep your life savings in place. But here, not as much. And so I think we tend to be more cautious about it. That's not a no, it's let's be cautious about it. And we always go back to the consumer. Does it make a difference to them? Does it make their life better? Does it enhance the quality of what they enjoy?
And by frontier tech, you mean? DNA
products, drones, satellites. We haven't done a lot of those.
AR, VR.
We've done a little bit of AR. We think that AR is quite interesting for gaming applications and potentially for other services. So I think that there's some opportunity. It's been a little bit out of favor in the last couple of years, but I think the technology is just catching up to where it can be really useful.